Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Chantal Aubry and I'm the Manager of Business Development here at Emergence. I'm pleased to be your moderator today and to welcome you to the first of three webinars what we're going to be hosting, what was formerly Dynamics CRM, which is now part of Dynamics 365. But before we get into it, just a few housekeeping items before we get started. In order to keep the flow of the presentation moving along and on schedule, the audience is on mute today, but we still want this to be as interactive as possible. So we ask that you please type in your questions in the side panel and we'll review them at the end and answer them all at the end of the presentation. Now, because we have a few people who are new to Emergence in attendance today, we just want to give a super quick overview of Emergence. We are a Bermuda-based organization and we're a business solutions provider. Our primary focus and what we're probably known for the most is the implementation and support of business platforms such as Dynamics GP and Dynamics 365, which of course includes Dynamics CRM. But we also have a large focus on corporate performance management, corporate reporting, business intelligence, and business automation. We have a staff of 35 people, including solution architects, business analysts, accountants, and functional and technical consultants. We have people who've been with the organization for 10, 15, 20 years, but we also have a lot of new people as well, which is quite exciting. We've hired about 8 people, I believe, in the last year alone, so our recruitment efforts are very much ongoing. We're definitely in growth mode, which is always a really great place to be. We have over 150 clients here in Bermuda, many of which have offices overseas. We support many of those offices as well, not just here in Bermuda. We have a balanced portfolio of financial services companies, distribution companies, and local and international businesses. And finally, we have access to a large network of trusted solution partners. Microsoft has a very large ecosystem of third-party vendors. So we spend a lot of our time evaluating new partners to bring solutions that meet the requirements of our clients and the Bermuda market specifically. Finally, I'd just like to call out that our company is broken up into 6 different practices. So you have them here on the right-hand side. We've got our finance and performance management practice, human capital management, operations management, customer relationship management, technology services, and business intelligence and reporting. And in each of these practices, we have subject matter experts here on island. Now, I guess we'll get to why you're here today. Let's take a look at, we're going to be taking a look at Dynamics 365 for sales. So Microsoft brought together all its Dynamics products under a single offering known as Dynamics 365. The rebranding saw the evolution of CRM to 5 individual Dynamics 365 apps: sales, customer service, field service, project service, automation, and marketing. The resulting solution is one whereby customers can pick and choose the apps they need, access them via one portal, ensure they work together seamlessly. So Matt, our presenter today, is going to go into more detail during his presentation of this, so I'm not going to get into too much detail about it right now. So as I mentioned, today's webinar will be focused on Dynamics 365 for sales to help turn your relationships into revenue, because that's what we're looking to do here. With Dynamics 365 for sales, you'll go beyond Salesforce automation to better understand your customer needs, engage more effectively, and win more deals, which is the goal. So I'd like to introduce you now to your presenter today. His name is Matt Clark. He joined the Emergence team in October of last year by way of the UK. He's been a Microsoft Dynamics CRM consultant for over 5 years. He started out in a pre-sales capacity, then moved to consultancy, where he now completes the full analysis, design, and development of CRM solutions. One of his most recent projects was for an office fit-out company. The aim of the project was to use Dynamics CRM to consolidate all of their disparate sales information that was being held by regional teams. On top of that, additional processes were put in place to allow them to plan and manage their key accounts. So that was a really exciting project for him. So without any further ado, I'm going to now pass it over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Chantal. Before I jump into the application, I'd like to talk a bit to the sales transformation that usually goes alongside the introduction of a new solution, and how the preceding analysis and discussion will lead into the design and implementation of the solution, alongside the business change to deliver the strategy. The starting point will be to review the current and future sales objectives for the sales organization alongside their target markets and value proposition. This vision will drive the discussion around the existing and potential future sales channels, models, and processes required to deliver the objectives set out by the organization, considering the reporting and analytics requirements at various levels throughout the process. Once this has been defined, there'll be a feed into the solution that is designed to enable the sales organization to deliver that strategy. Moving on to look at this from more of a solution perspective, here I have highlighted some key sales processes that can be enabled throughout the use of a CRM solution to deliver the business requirements. We're going to touch on these as we walk through the Dynamics 365 today, but I'd like to show this slide as it gives a high-level view that a CRM solution can help with delivering a broad range of initiatives across the business. For example, one of the elements we'll be looking at today is management of opportunities. At the outset, there can be various definitions across the sales organization about how and where an opportunity should be managed. Through the discussions with the business, we'll look to deliver a CRM solution to centralize and standardize the opportunity management process throughout the organization. Before we jump into the solution itself, I'd like to give you an overview of the Dynamics 365 for customer engagement, which sits on top of Microsoft's cloud platform, Office 365. Today, we'll be reviewing the sales application, but as you can see, Microsoft offer a number of applications in this suite. This includes the marketing and customer service applications that we'll be covering in later demos, and the field service and project service applications, which Chantal has just mentioned. On top of this suite, Microsoft and their partners have built add-ons that can be deployed to extend these applications to meet specific functional requirements. And as this sits on the Office 365 platform, there is native integration with Microsoft's products, including Power BI, their reporting tool that can tie together data from various sources to deliver a broad range of reports for the business. Now onto the demo. We'll start off by accessing Dynamics 365 through the browser. Towards the end, I'll show you how this can also be accessed through a tablet or mobile app for the users that you have on the move. So if I jump into Firefox, this is going to open up on the dashboard, which is sort of the home page for users when they access the system. This is essentially going to show the user data that's going to be relevant to them that they can action as soon as they access the system. So here, accessing the system as a sales rep is going to show me my current open pipeline, and we'll take a look at how we can start working with our pipeline and progressing it through the stages, hopefully to close. At the top right, I have here a relationship assistant. So this is going to give me some actionable cards based on the data or records that I own within the system for me to jump on and work with. So here I can see that as a sales rep, I have an opportunity that has a close date for yesterday that was meant to be closed. So I need to come in and open that opportunity and make the necessary edits to either sort of push out the sales date or close it as one. If I scroll down, I also have basically an aggregation of activities that have been performed on the records that I own within the system. So here, as a sales rep, it may be that there may be multiple users across the business who are working on the same set of opportunities as myself, and they're not always going to update me where they possibly add some additional detail or make some specific changes. And so here I can see that one of the leads that I have assigned to me, a competitor has been linked to that lead. So it could be that someone else in the business has performed that action, and this is just notifying me that that has been done. So then I can go in and review that opportunity and take the necessary steps to obviously compete against a specific competitor. So this dashboard is customized from a sales rep's perspective, but there are multiple levels of dashboards that can be created in the system. So this is at the sales rep level, but above them we'd have sales management. So if I was a sales manager, I'd want a different view of the data that is stored within the system. So at the sales rep, they saw the pipeline that they owned, but as a sales manager, here I'm seeing all of the pipeline owned by all of the sales reps in the business. I also here have a view of the won revenue for those opportunities across across a set period of time. And this is sort of information that I can use to go out and then speak to my sales team and get them to push this pipeline through to close, but also give me some good visualizations to understand if there are any outliers in the business. So here I can see in the March time, we landed 20 million, then 20 million there. It could be that we have a reoccurring deal that is coming in on these specific dates, and that's why our pipeline is jumping up during those months. Now we move on to the navigation. So along the top of Dynamics 365, we have a drop down here, which will open up all of the key entities that I as a user have access to in the system. This is all controlled by security. So it could be that some users in the system will only need access to some specific areas, where others will need to have a sort of broader view and access to everything. And that just makes the user experience more intuitive and easier to use for the users. So if I look through some of the key records here, we have under the sales area, we have dashboards, which we've looked at there. Then we have activities, which we'll take a look at as we work through the sales process and working with records. So activities give us the ability to set up tasks for ourselves in the future or other users in the system to get them to perform a specific action with a customer or a record. We can log the phone calls that we've had with customers. Now we can also track in emails from Outlook, which we'll take a look at. So that's just an easy way for us to get data into the system against the records that we're working with, just by simply tracking those emails that we receive from customers into the system. We then have accounts. So these are going to be the customers that we are currently working with or looking to work with, and all the information held against those. So we'll take a look at that as we work through the demo. And then contacts. So those will be the people within inside those businesses that you have contact with. We then move on to the sort of sales records. So to start with, depending on your sales process, you may want to use the leads entity. So this is essentially a bucket of potential opportunities that are unqualified. They could come from various sources. So it may be that that's sort of purchase data or data that's come off the back of a marketing campaign and isn't ready to formally sit within your reported pipeline, which would be your opportunities. So that would be something that has been qualified and has a sort of estimated close date and a revenue associated to it. So when the sales manager is talking with the team regarding their current pipeline, that is what will be reported on. From those opportunities, we would then create quotes for a customer. So that will be based off the information that we put on the opportunity itself, and they can then be issued to a customer who would then obviously sign off on those or ask for revisions. Once that quote has been signed off, it would become an order, which we would then invoice. There are some additional entities here that we won't look at today, but are useful to know that can be utilized within Dynamics 365. So the sales users do have the ability to set up a marketing list. So it may be that you want your sales users to reach out to their customers on a periodical basis. And they can do that by using some of the marketing functionality that's available in the system. We also have goals that can be utilized. So this is something for more of us from a sales manager's perspective, but they have the ability to set up goals for their resources in the system. So if I have a team of sales reps, I may want to set up goals for them to close a certain amount of revenue within a specific time frame. And this functionality enables you to set those goals and then track the user's progress against those targets based on the information and data that they're working with in the system. So if I jump in to take a look at the account records, here we see a sort of list of all of the accounts that we have currently set up in the system. Again, the data that's displayed to the users can also be controlled by the security that's assigned to them as a user. So it may be that you have specific business units in the business that should only have access to their own data, and that can be siloed off using the security functions within Dynamics 365. But on top of that, you also have the ability to filter data that's viewable by the user as soon as they access a particular record set. So here at the top of this list, I can see that currently it's showing me all of the active accounts in the system, and there's a filter that's applied to this. But I can change that filter to show me a different record set. So I could change it to show me only accounts that I own. And that just gives the ability for you to set up the system so that the users have the information that's going to be relevant to them as soon as possible when they access the system, instead of having them to sort of navigate around to find out what's going to be relevant. If I jump in and take a look at one of these accounts, we'll have a sort of a general look at how a system is laid out, how a record is laid out. So here we see the layout of the account form. So this is generally how you see a record laid out across the system. In the top left, we have the account information. So that's going to be sort of the high level information on that particular record that you're reviewing. And this can be customized and edited to the your business requirements that you have. So this is just the out of the box view of an account, but depending on the data points that you'd like to collect against that record and the other information that you store in an account, this can be customized. Additional fields can be added to allow you to capture all of that information that's relevant to you. Again, on this particular record, we see the relationship assistant that we saw at the dashboard level, which showed us the action cards that we have across the system for myself as a user. But if we go in and take a look at the record itself, we also have those action cards available to us there. So it may be that this is for other users' data in the system. If I scroll down, we have the activity pane here in the center. And again, as we saw on the dashboard, where we saw a global view of all of the posts that have been generated by the system, here we have a filtered view that's only showing us posts of actions that have been performed on records that are related to this account. So again, as a sales user, if I'm working with this account and so are multiple other users across the system, it allows me to get that sort of overall view of the current status of where other users are with this particular record and some of the actions that have been performed with them recently. If I change the tab at the top, we have activities, and this is sort of the first view we're going to get of tasks and phone calls that have been created in the system. So these could be tasks that are created by myself or other users. And I can see here, these are the activities that have been performed with this account. So I can see that a couple of my colleagues have had phone calls, outbound phone calls with this particular customer, and the detail behind that phone call based on the notes that they've entered while they created that particular activity. I can add future tasks to this or add additional phone calls. So it may be that I've dialed out and spoken to my contact at Fabrikam, and I would like to add an additional phone call to this. So I can say spoke with Ava regarding additional products outgoing, and it's already pulled through Ava through as the main contact. So if I click OK on that, it will then log that phone call in the activity feed, and then any other users across the business that are coming in to review this account would then see that phone call and understand that I've spoken with Ava, possibly delaying or prompting them to reach out to her to speak to her regarding other matters. We can also attach notes to this particular record, so a long sort of free form note, which would also allow us to sort of attach a document to that as well. But due to this sitting in the Office 365 platform, instead of attaching documents within Dynamics 365, we can actually use the SharePoint integration, which is native in the platform, which would allow us to upload any documents that we have into SharePoint, which should then be queryable in SharePoint, and other users who don't have access to Dynamics 365 would be able to reach those within SharePoint itself. To the right of the contact, we have the record, account record, we have the list of all of the related records to this particular account. So just from this view, I can see that there are 3 contacts linked to Fabrikam and who they are, but the primary contact for this account is Eva. So depending on who is reaching out across the business, the main person for them to contact regarding our relationship with us as a company would be Eva. Below that, we have a list of all the opportunities which we're going to take a look at as we walk through the sales process. But just from this account view, this gives me that view of all the current open or potentially closed opportunities with this account at this moment. So it may be that a colleague of mine is working on a similar opportunity with this account, or it may even be a duplicate. So that would give me the ability to collaborate and work with that additional sales rep on the current status of that opportunity and give them my insight to the current situation. And then below that, we have the cases. So from a support perspective, which we'll be covering in a later demo on Dynamics 365, the support customer service users in the business will be using this to log any incidents or issues that have been raised by this customer with us as a business. So this will also give the sales rep a view of the current status with that customer. So it may be that there have been some particular issues that have been raised by them recently that possibly aren't closed. So it may be that the sales rep wants to go and get an update on those particular issues before they reach out to the customer regarding a new opportunity that they have with them. And then below at the bottom of the account form, we have some of the additional data that's captured against this record. As I mentioned earlier, this is fully configurable to your business requirements and the information that you would like to capture against a particular record or account or contact. If I've spoken with someone new within this business and I can see here they're not listed as a contact, what I can then do is simply add them in by using the plus button there. And it's going to drop down the create contact form. So if I do save, that new contact's then going to be added to this particular account. So it's a pretty quick way for the users to enter data in the system and build up the view of the people that they're working with within this business. So if I take a jump back out of the account area, what we're going to take a look at now is the sales process. So these are the main sort of records outside of the accounts and contacts that the sales user will be working with. As I mentioned, the sales process could start off with leads. Depending on your requirements, it may be that opportunities is a starting point for the sales process, but in general, leads is where you would start, just so that you have that view of a bucket of potential opportunities that aren't fully qualified yet. But it also gives you the ability to track their source and if they were qualified or disqualified. So it may be that they've come off the back of a conference and you'd like to get an idea of the quality of the leads that have come out of that. Instead of loading these all in as opportunities, which would then formally sit within the sales rep's pipeline, you would load them as leads where they haven't been qualified yet, but would still give you the ability to track the success rate. So if I take a scroll down here, I can see all of these came from a 2018 conference. If I open that up, here we're going to see the lead form. So this is very similar layout to what we saw on the account record. We have the key summary information here on the top left for the lead and the activity pane in the center, and then related records in the right. But for the sales entities, what we do have along the top is the process bar. And this is essentially a guidance for the users to drive them through the sales process that has been defined by the business to hopefully close this opportunity with the customer. So this is a good way to make sure that the process that has been defined by the business is being stuck to, and the specific data points and authorizations are met as they drive the opportunity through that sales process. So if I scroll down here, we can see the sort of information that's been captured. As it has been loaded from a conference, currently the data points for the name and the company are just free text fields. So the first point in the sales process is asking me to check if these are is this an existing company in our system and an existing contact. So if I just Tailspin, I can see Tailspin Toys is an existing contact with a company within our system. So I'd select them as an existing account. I then need to check if Kenneth is an existing contact, so he's not set up currently in our system. So if I leave that blank, when I go through and qualify this to an opportunity, it's then going to go and create Kenneth with these contact details in our system. To the right of the lead, I'm going to have I have the stakeholders subgrid. So as part of this process, it's asking me to identify the decision maker in the business. So it may be, is this Kenneth or not? So what I'm going to do is when I put in that phone call to Kenneth, I'm going to try and identify the decision maker, and some of these additional data points which will give me an idea if this is actually a fully qualified opportunity and I should move it on to the next stage. So what I'm going to do is put in a call to Kenneth, and I'll log that as a phone call here in the activity pane. To discuss requirements. Click OK. During that phone call, Kenneth mentioned that there is another contact within the business who would be the decision maker. So what I'd do is add them in as a stakeholder to this particular opportunity. So Alex, and then I've added that Alex contact in as a stakeholder. So if anyone else comes in to take a look at this lead, or when we move it over to the opportunity, they'd understand that there's not more person outside of Kenneth who are engaged and have their own point of view on this particular sales opportunity. During that, I've been prompted to ask him for the budget, which is part of the qualifying steps to take it over to an opportunity, which he's given to me, and some more details around the purchase process. So because it's not just Kenneth making the decisions, this is a decision by committee, and some stuff around the purchase timeframe, which is going to look like it's going to be this quarter. And I've identified the decision maker. Some of these fields aren't required, so it doesn't force me to complete them to move on to the next stage, but that can be defined as we sort of talk through your required sales process, as what sort of data points are required and which just want to be prompts for the user to enter that information as they flow through the process. So now I'm pretty confident this is a qualified lead, and I'd like this to formally sit within my pipeline as a sales rep. So the next step for me to do is qualify this. I could also disqualify this lead and give a reason behind that, and this will give the marketing or sales department an idea of the quality of those leads that they've added to the system based on the qualify and disqualify rates and the reason behind it. Say it was cannot contact, it's likely that the sort of data that was purchased probably wasn't great. So if I click qualify, this has then converted that lead to an opportunity, and that lead would now be closed and will be removed from my list of leads in the system. And you can see it's progressed from the qualify stage into the first stage of the sales process on the opportunity, where it's now giving me additional prompts and data points that I need to capture as I start to progress this. So the first thing it's asking me to do is define the customer's needs and the proposed solution. So if I scroll down the form here, I can enter the customer's needs, needs some new IT equipment. Proposed solution, upgrade, update, hardware across the business. The next thing it's asked me to do is identify any stakeholders, which I've done at the first stage, but it also allows me to enter any additional stakeholders that have been discussed as we start to work through the opportunity. So I've already identified those stakeholders. It's also asking me to identify any competitors. So through my discussions with Kenneth, he may mention that they're already engaged with another competitor of ours. So what I can do in the subgrid here on the right is add that competitor to this particular opportunity. And what that will do is it will give the sales organization the ability to do some analysis behind the opportunities that they're winning and losing against specific competitors. So once I have finally progressed this opportunity through to its closure, this competitor information can be key when the business is looking back on where they are competing or how they are competing with specific competitors and on specific styles of opportunities. So I've identified competitors. And from my discussions with Kenneth, and based on a defined sales process internally in the business, I'd now like to move this on to the next stage of the sales process. Just not before that, I'd like to add the estimated close date to this. So based on my discussions with Kenneth, they said they'd like to close on the 25th of April, and the estimated revenue for me is going to be 40,000. So that is just free text at the moment, and that will look to get a bit more detailed when we start to add some products to this. So that we'll do that in the next stage of the process, which we propose. So I'll move this opportunity onto that next stage, and now we're in the process stage of the opportunity. Here, it's asking me to identify the sales team. So it could be that not only myself are working on this particular opportunity, but there are other users across the business who are engaged with this customer. And so adding them here to the sales team would then give that the rest of the business a view of the other people that are working on this and the role that they are performing. So I need a technical sales professional to help me with this particular proposal. And would also give the ability to allow them to get recognition of their work on this particular piece of work with the customer. So I've identified the sales team. It's next asking me to develop a proposal. So if I scroll down to the bottom of the opportunity, here I can start to see that I can add products to this particular opportunity. So the first thing it's asking me to do is select a price list. This is essentially a list of prices for the products that we're going to be reselling to the customer. And this could be defaulted. It may be that you just have a flat rate across the organization for the products that you sell to the customer, but it could be that you have multiple levels of pricing based on where the customer sits within you as an organization. So it could be that you have premium and sort of basic customers, and depending on where the level they are, they would have access to different levels of pricing. For me, this is just a retail customer, so I'm going to select the retail price list and then change the revenue to system calculated, and that's going to then change the estimated revenue to be locked, and it's going to be generated based on the products and information that I enter in to the sales products. So if I click add new and add existing, what I can start to do is select the products from our catalog that have been discussed with this customer that they have a requirement for. So as I've selected that product, it's pulled through the pricing based on the price list that I've selected, and then I can select a quantity. Once I select that quantity and click new, it's then going to update the estimated revenue based on that information that I've added. I can start to build up a list of all of the products that have been discussed. With this particular customer. And as you can see on the product line here, we also have a hyperlink for suggestions. If I open this up, here it's going to give me a view of possible other products based on the product that I've selected that could be sold to this customer. So because they've selected this particular laptop, in the background, it knows that there are some accessories that could go along with this that I could then upsell to the customer or sell to the customer alongside the laptop that they've selected. We can also set products that you may want to upsell based on that product. So it could be that we have a slightly more expensive product with a better margin that we would like to set as a product to notify the user to try and upsell when the customer has picked the WW1 laptop. And we can also select substitutes. So it may be that through looking at your current inventory that you don't have any stock of the WW1 laptop, then you can set up substitutes for that particular product. So once I've built out sort of a good view of the products that have been discussed with the customer, the next stage in the sales process is to present a proposal. So what I'd like to do is then create a quote for the customer based on this information that I've added. So as you can see on the opportunity, we can create multiple quotes for a particular customer. So it may be that they've asked us to quote them on various scenarios in the sales process. To meet their requirements. So we'd like to create multiple quotes for this particular opportunity. So if I click new, it's going to open up the quote form, and it's pulled through all the information that I've already added to the opportunity. Again, this can be customized to meet your requirements based on the data points that you would like to capture at this level. But you may want to then make edits to this particular scenario that they've asked you to quote for. So it may be that they've asked for a few more printers and one less laptop. From here, I can then activate this quote, which would then makes it read-only. It's just to let other users across the business know that this has been issued to the customer, just to stop them from making any edits to that. Back at the opportunity level, I'd like to mark that I've presented my proposal to the customer and then waiting for their feedback. So at this point, I would then move on to the next stage in the sales process. Now at this point, there's probably going to be a bit of discussion with the customer based on the quote, possibly trying to get some additional edits made. And all of that information is possibly going to be done through emails. So from those discussions with the customer and the emails that I've received, all that information would currently just sit within Outlook. But what I'd like to do is then track that information into CRM so it can sit against that opportunity. So other users or myself, when I'm looking at a particular opportunity, that I can get a view of the current situation and the conversations that are still going on outside of the information that I've captured on that particular record. So within Outlook itself, we have the Dynamics 365 tab here on the top right. Which pops out this grid here on the right. So this is going to give me a view based on the email that's I've received, who the contact is. So this is my email here, which is linked to that particular contact in the system. But it's giving me a view and telling me that that particular contact is already set up in CRM, and this is the account they sit under. And that's the recent opportunity that we have with that particular account. But as I can see, it's not actually tracked yet in the system. So this email is only sits within Outlook at the moment. So what I'd then like to do is link this in to the particular opportunity that I'm currently working with. So if I click conference, this is then going to track this particular email into the system, and then I can see that it's linked to that particular opportunity that I'm working on. I'll give that a few minutes to sync over. So now we're in the closing stages of the opportunity, and here it's asking me to complete the final proposal. So based on my discussions with the customer, it could be that I need to revise this particular quote or create additional new ones, but in this case, I'm going to revise this quote. So that then takes it out of being locked and back into draft mode, and it changes the revision number to 1. So based on the discussions, they'd like to up the number of processors and computers that they've requested. So once I've made that revision, I would then activate that quote. Then so that's our final proposal to them, and we've presented it, and they're looking to make a decision date this week. Cool. So now, in further discussions with that customer, they've decided that they'd like to go ahead with this. And so as a sales rep, the final step for me to do is convert this into an order and remove that opportunity and quote from my pipeline. So if I create an order from this, it's going to ask me if I want to close the opportunity that I've been working on, and the actual revenue for that opportunity, which will be reported against me as a sales rep, is the actual revenue that we have against this quote, which is the sum of all of those products that we've added to this. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to click yes. And the date one was today, because that was when the discussion we had with the customer. Now, if I click OK on that, that quote's now going to close off and become an order, and that's now out of the sales reps pipeline and off their plate, and moves on to fulfillment, who would need to stock and send those products out to the customer. Now the opportunity has been set to 1, and that would now formally sit out of my pipeline. So now I can go back to look at the additional areas, the additional parts of the funnel that I need to work on within my pipeline. So that's it from the sort of sales reps perspective and the sort of process that they go through the browser. We can also work with this information with a very similar sort of user experience in the tablet. So if I open up the tablet app here, here we can see the user experience within the tablet or mobile application. So we get a very similar dashboard view, but has been customized or laid out for a more friendly user experience when that user is accessing it through a tablet. So here we have the list view of my current open opportunities, and again my pipeline here on the right. And very similar to how we saw in the browser version, what we can do is actually expand this chart to review it in more detail and work with particular sections within that chart. So if I double click on any of the sections on the right, what it's going to do is then filter those particular opportunities I have here on the right based on the section that I've selected on the left. So just selecting one of those particular segments in the pipeline is going to filter the opportunities that I have here on the right and allow me to work with ones that are going to be more important to me, which are going to be the ones that are sort of towards the end of the funnel. If I then open up any of these opportunities, I can see again it's a sort of a more user-friendly experience for the tablet. We have the sales process going along the top with the record information along the bottom, and then I have the navigation here in tabs along the bottom as well. So if I click back, I can open up the menu here on the left, which is going to show me all the entities that I have access to. I can also search the system to do global searches. And I have the relationship insights that were available to me on the dashboard, which showed me that there was an opportunity here that was closed past its close date. So it's a very similar user experience with similar functionality available in the tablet and the browser, and it all sort of depends on the users sort of where they are and if they're traveling and their preference of how they'd like to access the system, but they'd have ability to access via both. So that's it for the sales demonstration today and the sales process that we've walked through. So we started off by reviewing the system as a whole and the navigation. Then we jumped in to look at the sales process, so promoting, qualifying an unqualified lead to an opportunity, progressing that opportunity through the various sales stages, and providing quotes to the customer, which were then dropped out of the sales rep's view to become orders, which would then be picked up by the rest of the business. I'd like to open up the floor now to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Matt, for that. So we're going to go through some of the questions that were sent in. You still have some time to write in your questions if you'd like. So I'm going to start off with the first one. So one question, Matt, that came in is, does Microsoft Dynamics 365 integrate with SharePoint?
Yes, yeah. So any record sets within the system can be linked in with the SharePoint. So that gives you the ability to use SharePoint as a document repository, which has all of the SharePoint functionality linked in with it. So the ability to have versioning of documents, tracking of changes, and also the ability for users who aren't Dynamics 365 users to access and enter that information. So here I can see against this particular opportunity, I have this document area here, which is actually sort of an iframe into SharePoint. And if I opened up this particular location, it's going to take me through to SharePoint. So I can see there for that particular account, I have a subfolder for all the opportunities that are associated to that account, and then a subfolder for that particular opportunity, and that would hold any documents that are stored here against this particular record in the system.
Okay, great. The next question that we have is, when creating a quote in CRM, does it create a PDF of the quote to send to customers, and can it be sent from CRM?
Yes, so if I go through to the quote area, out of the box, it doesn't automatically create the quote, but that is something that can be customized. If we go through to the quote itself, out of the box, you do have the ability to create Word templates in the system. So these are essentially a template that can be generated off any record set that you like in the system. I can see here I have one for quote summary. So if I open up the quote summary and click open with Word, that's then going to pull through all of the details from that particular quote into a Word template, which could be saved as a PDF and then sent to the customer. And obviously this can be customized to meet the specific requirements from the business. But the actual automation of quotes sending out and automatically setting them up as PDFs is something that can be customized and developed with in the system, and something that has been I've worked on in the past.
Great. Okay, the last question that we have for today is, can I purchase Microsoft Dynamics 365 via subscription model?
Yes, you can. So Dynamics 365 can be purchased and deployed either on-premise, which is a perpetual license, or online, which is the subscription model of licensing on a per user per month basis.
Okay, it looks like we've covered all of our questions. Is there anything else, Matt, that you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
No, that is everything from me.
Okay, great. If you would like to discuss your company's requirements in a bit more detail to see if Dynamics 365 for Sales would be a good fit for your organization, you can contact either myself or Rob, and we'll put those details there for you, and we'll be happy to assist you with that. Finally, if you think others in your organization would get value from this webinar, a recorded version will be available and it'll be sent to you. So please feel free to share it with your colleagues. And if there's no more questions, thank you very much again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Chantal.